Welcome back. It's not every day you read a story like this. Typically, trade talks, the way we've up until now have basically kind of broken them down. They've been between a Canadian trade delegation, the U.S. president, for example. This latest one, which is described as, quote, a huge opportunity, unquote, has not just Canadian trade delegates, but actually over 200 businesses in this country seeking new markets, now meeting with someone we already do a lot of business with, and that is the country of Mexico. Marc Miller, Minister of Canadian Identity and Culture, the minister responsible for official languages, is on the line. Minister Miller, thanks for your time this afternoon. So, as I said, this is typically not the story we'd hear. A lot of small and medium businesses seem to be the focus here. Yeah,
it's great. I mean, the relationship with Mexico is about a $56 billion relationship. Generally, it's been jumped 12-fold since NAFTA in the mid-'90s, so it's grown immensely. This trade mission, I think, is one of the biggest we've had, at least in this millennium. And it's, like you said, it's full of smaller and, big businesses are here. They usually can do work on their own. It's great to have the Canadian government support them, but we're supporting smaller and medium-sized businesses. And last count I saw was over about 2,000 sort of business-to-business meetings that are teed up here in Mexico City, but also in Monterrey and Guadalajara over the next week. And I've talked to someone in the industry, and they've seen smaller versions of this before, and they always say, we can always sense when this is not working and they're not meeting the right people, but it looks like they're talking to the right people and hopefully getting deals done. It's a bit of a lagging indicator, the financial implication of this, but there's a lot of potential and there's a lot of hype. So it's kind of cool to be a part of it. The cultural industries are a very prominent aspect of this. There's about 400 individual meetings that just in the cultural industries and artists, individuals to individuals, groups to groups that are being organized. That's about a little under $2 billion of trade between our two countries, so it's not nothing, and it's a huge untapped potential. I saw a Moment Factory exhibition in the park last night, and the Modern Museum has a Canadian-Mexican artist that is being profiled and doing amazing work. So kind of cool to see, and it's, as everyone knows, because 7% of our population goes to Mexico. Yeah. Mexico City is an amazing city.
I wonder, too, you mentioned cultural, but with respect to other areas, I mean, what else is involved? Are we talking agriculture, industrial? What else is in here? Do you know?
Yeah, the traditional meat and potato parts of the relationship. Agriculture is a huge two-way relationship. We're trying to sell more products into Mexico. It's usually an inverse relationship with temporary workers coming up here. But also in Bombardier recreational products are here, and in, as I mentioned, in the cultural spaces, places, folks like Moment Factory that's really grown in the last little while. So there's a traditional aspect of it that we want to make sure it grows, and we leverage that pursuant to the relationship that Prime Minister Carney renewed with President Sheinbaum. But looking for different potentials to leverage as well.
It's interesting because I think most people hearing this would think, well, wait a sec, Mexico's part of CUSMA, and, we were in there along with the U.S., although we don't know where that's going to go. Is this being done, do you think, in part because we don't know how that's going to play out when those talks resume?
Well, I think there's a lot of uncertainty, and, in that moment of uncertainty, as the Prime Minister said a number of times, you got to kind of take the horse by the reins and control what you can control. So organizing these missions, whether it's to Mexico or to other countries, is huge. And if we can insert it in a relationship that we've done really well, and Mexico's done really well, and CUSMA is so much the better. I wouldn't read too much into it because we just have to do more and diversify better, because we've seen a relationship that we thought was a little more certain with the U.S. be very much uncertain and unpredictable. And that's unfortunate, but we can't just sit here and do nothing.
Yeah, I just find the Mexico thing interesting, A, for the breadth of it, number one, as you've just been going through, but B, for the fact that when we talk about diversifying relationships, it's typically with countries like, for example, we have a deal coming up with India. We're doing what we can now with China in different areas that we weren't involved in before. Mexico's been there since the get-go. I'm trying to understand why now, and is this because directly of the way things are going with the United States? Why do we feel the need to do this now?
Well, just like we need to do more things internally and get rid of our trade barriers internally in Canada, the North American relationship isn't limited to us in the U.S., and Mexico is they're one of our largest trading partners. And I think the sense was within the team is that we can do more, not only on the government-to-government relationship, but in the business-to-business relationship. And with the Canadian government backing these organizations, and sometimes that actually lends credibility, you can actually sort of multiply the returns that that companies would be getting and facilitate a number of relationships that are, to be honest, they're already there. And the relationship, and people-to-people relationship between Canada and Mexico is strong to begin with, and it's grown over the last few years. We're also pushing a very important aspect of Indigenous to Indigenous relationship. There's a number of our organizations, Indigenous relationship organizations in Canada that are meeting some of their counterparts here, and that's, again, a source of untapped potential.
I wonder, too, people have brought this up as well. I read this in the article suggesting, there is a concern when we do business, security in Mexico, not perhaps what we might expect. Is that part of what's being negotiated here as well or discussed?
Well, relationships can't have any certainty if the security relationship is something that is of concern. It's something that we have highlighted and will continue to highlight, particularly given the recent news about a Canadian mine where 10 workers went. They're not Canadian citizens. They still work for the mine, and 5 of them are dead. So that is for businesses operating. They want security, but more importantly for the people that work there. Do you have this? I mean, is the impression from the Mexicans that they really want this to work? I mean, we're just another country for them, not even that big a country. So, I mean, why are they interested in this? Well, for them, at least, they'll tell us, and it bears itself out in the numbers, is that we are one of their most important trading partners on a number of levels. So those are just the facts. And to have that relationship deepened and the economic relationships multiplied through these business-to-business exchanges will just make the relationship deeper. And I think we're also considering doing the same thing in a year where we're all hosting FIFA to have a return delegation of businesses coming to Canada to invest in Canada, which is also an important part of the equation that we haven't talked about yet. It's interesting. I wonder for people as well who don't know, when I brought up CUSMA, right, the idea that Mexico in a deal with the U.S., and I guess the president is this is one of the things he's concerned with over the auto sector. Is there a chance for us to do something with respect to the auto sector with Mexico? Potentially, and those are ongoing discussions. The net of it is that this is a relationship that's worked. It's worked for the U.S., it's worked for Canada, and it's worked for Mexico as a really important agreement for the North American hemisphere. And trade that has jumped 12 times in 30 years is significant. And we can't neglect it, but we can also find areas where we can do even better, and that could include the oil industry. I know you also wanted to mention just quickly the GST rebate, something that was in the news a little while ago, and what that would mean for some Canadians. Well, for Canadians that have troubles making ends meet, that aren't making, that don't have significant salaries, that rebate is important in making sure that we are sort of bridging the inflationary gap that has occurred since COVID, and it'll put, for families, several $100 back in their pockets on food items that people are struggling to pay for. So I think that announcement that has had support from the Conservatives and all parties is something that's really important. And it's, I think it's part of the Team Canada in making sure that we're dealing with affordability and that's affected countries across the world. And we certainly see it in Mexico, but we felt it at home in Canada, particularly since we've come out of COVID. Yeah, that's an important announcement, and it's important to keep that in mind because grocery prices need to get cheaper, and this is just our way of helping Canadians make ends meet. I wonder, too, I should mention, is it today where the EV rebate actually kicks in as well? I'm not sure if today's the day. I don't think it's today, but shortly. That is still ongoing work, but that's in the very near future. Best of my knowledge is it's at some point in the spring. Okay, I thought I'd heard somewhere. I heard some auto dealers saying today, before we start doing this, let's pay off what we'd had from the last one. Some dealers still waiting for that, but that's why I assumed this was happening sooner. If they're willing to offer rebates without the Canadian government, I'm happy for that. Yeah, as well. I'm sure you are. All right, we'll leave it at that. Marc Miller, Marc, I thank you so much. Appreciate the time. Thank you, Aaron. Take good care.
I'm Dylan Playfair.
And I'm Tyler Smith.
We're putting loneliness in the penalty box by talking to some of our favorite athletes about the importance of friendship.
This is Bromance.
Bromance is brought to you by Charm Diamond Centers, proudly Canadian-owned and operated. Charm has been part of your love stories and bromances for over 50 years.
And you can find Bromance on the iHeartRadio network or wherever you get your podcasts.